Have you ever looked around at your life and wondered how things got so far off track? You were just living, just reacting, doing what everyone else was doing, and yet something feels off. You're exhausted, unmotivated, frustrated. Everything feels heavier than it should. What if I told you that the fastest way to ruin your entire life isn't one catastrophic event, but a slow, silent betrayal of your own potential? It doesn't happen in an instant. It happens in the little moments you ignore, the habits you let slide, the thoughts you never question, and by the time you realize what's happening, it's already done its damage. The ancient Stoics warned us. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." But most of us waste time arguing with ourselves. We chase validation, we react emotionally, we avoid discomfort, and in doing so, we sabotage the life we were meant to live. This video is a wake-up call, not a lecture, not a checklist, a mirror. If you're brave enough to look, what you see might just save you. Let's begin. Habit number 1, surrounding yourself with yes men. Imagine standing in a room full of mirrors. Every time you speak, the mirrors reflect your own image back at you, reassuring you that you are right, that you are perfect. At first, this feels reassuring, like being surrounded by people who always agree with you, never challenge you, and constantly affirm your decisions. But over time, these reflections become distorted, and you start to realize the consequences of living in a world where only your voice is heard. This was my experience when I surrounded myself with people who never disagreed with me, never questioned my actions, and simply agreed with everything I said. It was easy to be surrounded by yes men because their constant affirmation made me feel secure. I didn't have to face uncomfortable truths, and I didn't have to examine my decisions. It was the validation I thought I wanted, but it came at the expense of my growth. The real wake-up call came when I pitched an idea at work that I was certain would succeed. My team, filled with yes men, praised my vision without hesitation, telling me it was brilliant. But when the project failed, I was left to face the fallout alone. Looking back, I realized that my team had seen the flaws in the plan, but chose to stay silent. They were more interested in keeping the peace and maintaining their position than helping me see the truth. The problem with surrounding yourself with yes men is that it creates a false sense of security. Without anyone challenging your ideas, you begin to believe that your decisions are flawless. This leads to complacency, and you fail to recognize mistakes until they've already led to failure. Without honest feedback, you stay in your bubble, blind to your shortcomings. This dynamic is not new, and it's powerfully illustrated in Shakespeare's King Lear. In the play, King Lear, desperate for validation, surrounds himself with sycophants who flatter him and tell him only what he wants to hear. He banishes the daughter who speaks the truth, and as a result, he is blinded to the reality of his own situation. His need for constant affirmation leads him to make tragic mistakes, ultimately causing his downfall. Through my own journey, I came to realize that true friends and effective colleagues are those who don't just agree with you for the sake of it. The ones who challenge you, who question your assumptions, and who offer constructive criticism are the ones who help you grow. Their honesty may sting at times, but it's this kind of feedback that prevents you from making decisions that could lead to failure. The key lesson here is simple. Growth comes from challenge, and wisdom comes from a diversity of perspectives. When you're surrounded by people who only tell you what you want to hear, you're denying yourself the chance to grow. It's in the uncomfortable moments, the tough conversations, and the differing opinions that real progress happens. By embracing those who challenge you, who offer new ideas and alternative viewpoints, you can avoid the pitfalls of stagnation. Don't seek out validation in the form of constant agreement. Instead, surround yourself with those who push you to think differently, even if it's uncomfortable. It's in these moments that you'll truly grow and succeed. In today's world of echo chambers and social media algorithms that reinforce our existing beliefs, it's easy to surround ourselves with people who simply mirror our thoughts. But it's the people who challenge us, who speak hard truths and offer fresh perspectives, that help us become better versions of ourselves. Embrace the discomfort of being challenged. It's the key to your evolution. Ultimately, the most valuable relationships are those that make you better, not just those that make you feel good. Seek out the people who challenge your thinking, question your assumptions, and help you grow. They are the ones who will help you succeed in the long run. Ask yourself, are you surrounding yourself with people who are afraid to challenge you? Are you seeking validation instead of growth? If you want to evolve and improve, it's time to embrace those who offer constructive criticism and push you to be better. The discomfort of being questioned is the path to your true success. Habit number 2, taking everything personally. Imagine walking through life with a constant, invisible weight on your shoulders. Every comment, every gesture, and every glance feels like a direct hit on your self-worth. For years, this was my reality. I was deeply sensitive to the opinions of others, taking everything personally, whether it was a joke, a critique, or just a casual comment. It felt like the world was constantly attacking me, and I would ruminate endlessly on these interactions, questioning my value and feeling unjustly criticized. This way of thinking was emotionally draining and had a significant impact on my personal and professional life. I remember one particular instance at work where my manager provided feedback on a project I had spent weeks developing. Instead of viewing it as constructive input, I saw it as a personal criticism of my abilities. I reacted defensively, dismissing the feedback and refusing to engage in any further conversation. This not only hurt my working relationship, but also stunted my growth. Taking everything personally is like dragging around a heavy bag of stones everywhere you go. It burdens your mind and emotions, preventing you from moving forward or seeing things clearly. When you internalize others' words and actions as attacks on your identity, you stop being able to objectively assess situations. You become defensive, insecure, and close off the potential for growth. A more relatable example can be seen in the story of the tortoise and the hare. In this fable, the hare arrogantly races ahead, confident in winning, while the tortoise, who is slower, keeps a steady pace. The hare, distracted by his own self-importance and dismissive of the tortoise, fails to keep his focus. When the tortoise wins the race, the hare takes it personally, feeling humiliated and defeated. The moral of the story is not just about the race, it's about how we handle setbacks. Rather than learning from the experience, the hare focuses solely on how it feels about being beaten, unable to see beyond his ego. The deeper message here is vital. Not everything is about you. People's comments and actions are often shaped by their own feelings, experiences, and struggles. By making everything about you, you distort the context and misinterpret their true intent. This prevents you from seeing things as they really are, and more importantly, from learning from those situations. When I began to detach my self-worth from the opinions of others, it was like lifting a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying. I could finally see feedback for what it was, a tool for personal and professional development, not a personal attack. This shift allowed me to open myself to growth and develop resilience, as I no longer felt the need to defend myself against every small criticism. Over time, I began to realize that by not taking everything personally, I became more open to new ideas and perspectives. I could approach situations with a clearer mind, free from the emotional baggage that used to cloud my judgment. I found myself more adaptable, more confident, and better equipped to handle the challenges that came my way. Ask yourself, how often do you react defensively to feedback or criticism? Are you letting other people's words define your self-worth? If you want to be more resilient, it's time to let go of the habit of taking everything personally. The freedom to grow and learn comes from understanding that not everything is a direct reflection of you. Sometimes it's just about others' perspectives and experiences. Habit number 3, spending recklessly. Consider the experience of someone who constantly indulges in buying things they don't need, only to be faced with the reality of an unexpected financial crisis. That was me for many years. I lived paycheck to paycheck, spending impulsively and without much thought for the future. The immediate satisfaction of a new purchase always felt good, but it soon left me facing the harsh consequences of living without a financial safety net. The turning point came when I received an unexpected bill, one that I couldn't afford because I had no savings to fall back on. I felt the weight of my financial irresponsibility, the stress of knowing I had no cushion for emergencies. This moment was a wake-up call, forcing me to realize just how reckless my spending habits had been. For far too long, I was caught in the cycle of buying things for the sake of instant gratification. Whether it was a new gadget, an expensive dinner, or a night out, I convinced myself that these material possessions and fleeting experiences would bring me lasting happiness. But the reality is that reckless spending isn't just about spending money. It's about a mindset that equates possessions with joy. The thrill is always short-lived, and the emptiness quickly follows. This mindset traps you in a never-ending cycle of consumption, always seeking the next high, the next shiny object. But once the excitement fades, you're left with nothing but regret and growing debt. It's like chasing an illusion, thinking that happiness can be bought, only to realize that true fulfillment comes from within, not from things. An example of this mindset can be seen in the tortoise and the hare. In this fable, the hare represents someone who rushes ahead without thinking of the future, taking shortcuts and celebrating immediate wins. The tortoise, on the other hand, is slow and steady, focusing on long-term success rather than fleeting victories. Ultimately, the tortoise wins because they understand the value of consistency, planning, and patience, while the hare's reckless approach leads to their downfall. This story teaches the importance of considering the long-term impact of our actions, particularly when it comes to managing money wisely. The key takeaway here is that financial stability is not about immediate rewards. It's about building a strong foundation for the future. Reckless spending sacrifices that stability in favor of temporary pleasures. It robs you of the ability to invest in meaningful experiences, long-term goals, and the peace of mind that comes from knowing your future is secure. Reckless spending also has a ripple effect on relationships. Financial stress can create tension and insecurity, especially if you're unable to contribute or feel embarrassed about your financial situation. When you live in constant fear of money problems, it can strain your connections with others and prevent you from being fully present in your relationships. To break free from this habit, you need to change your mindset. Instead of focusing on short-term satisfaction, see money as a tool to create stability and opportunities for the future. Making deliberate choices about how you spend, save, and invest is crucial to gaining financial freedom. Start by tracking your expenses and setting a realistic budget. Cut back on unnecessary spending, prioritize saving, and start thinking about your long-term goals. This shift will bring you not only financial freedom, but also a sense of empowerment and peace that you can carry with you. In my own journey, as I shifted my mindset, I began to see the value in saving for the future. I started building an emergency fund and investing in experiences that contributed to my personal growth rather than indulging in fleeting pleasures. The peace of mind that came with this new approach was priceless. By curbing reckless spending, you open the door to a future of financial stability. You'll gain confidence in handling life's challenges, knowing that you've built a solid foundation for yourself. Ask yourself, are you living for the moment at the cost of your future security? Are your financial habits helping you build a stable foundation, or are they holding you back? When you make the shift from immediate gratification to long-term planning, you'll find yourself on a path to lasting peace and fulfillment. Habit number 4, fearing failure. Have you ever avoided taking risks because you were afraid of failing? I used to do the same thing. The thought of making a mistake or not succeeding kept me from pursuing new opportunities. I feared the consequences of failure, disappointment, judgment, or rejection, so I chose the safety of the familiar. The idea of failing became so paralyzing that I missed out on experiences that could have propelled me forward in life. This fear of failure held me back in countless ways. Every time an opportunity to step outside my comfort zone presented itself, whether it was launching a new project, making a big career move, or even asking someone for help, I hesitated. The fear of, what if I fail, took control of my thoughts, causing me to second-guess myself and avoid taking risks altogether. In my mind, failure wasn't just a possibility, it was a certainty that I couldn't bear to face. It wasn't until a turning point in my life that I realized how much I was limiting myself. I had the chance to speak at an important event, but I almost backed out because I was terrified. My hands shook, my heart raced, and the fear of failure seemed overwhelming. But I pushed through anyway, and that experience, despite being nerve-wracking, ended up being one of the most rewarding of my life. I realized that failure wasn't as scary as I had imagined, and it wasn't the end. It was just part of the process of growth. A story that brings this point home is that of Michael Jordan, who is often considered one of the greatest basketball players of all time. However, what many don't know is that he was cut from his high school basketball team. That experience could have crushed his confidence, but instead it motivated him to work harder and improve his game. Jordan himself said, "I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." His ability to embrace failure, learn from it, and keep going is what ultimately made him a legend in the sport. The key message here is that failure is not the enemy. It's a necessary part of growth. Every time we fail, we're given a valuable opportunity to learn, adjust, and try again. By avoiding failure, we deny ourselves the chance to improve and evolve. It's in those moments of failure that we gain wisdom and develop resilience, which are essential for long-term success. When we stop fearing failure, we can start to take risks, explore new opportunities, and push beyond our comfort zones. Failure becomes a teacher rather than a foe. It shows us where we need to grow and gives us the courage to keep going. This shift in mindset allows us to become more flexible and adaptable, leading to greater success and fulfillment. Moreover, the act of embracing failure allows us to shed the pressure of perfection. We no longer feel the need to be flawless. Instead, we focus on progress and learning. It's a freeing experience to realize that mistakes don't define us. They simply help us become better versions of ourselves. The more we embrace failure, the more we understand that it is a crucial part of the journey. Each failure we encounter is an opportunity to refine our approach, build resilience, and strengthen our character. It teaches us that success is not a straight line, but a series of trial and error, growth and perseverance. Ask yourself, how often do you hold yourself back because you fear failure? What would your life look like if you embraced failure as a step toward growth rather than something to avoid? When you stop fearing failure, you'll find the courage to pursue your goals without hesitation and grow into the person you were meant to be. Habit number 5, waiting for the right moment. Have you ever found yourself waiting for the perfect moment to act, only to realize that it never comes? I used to be stuck in this pattern, waiting for the perfect set of circumstances to fall into place before making any significant moves. Whether it was launching a new project, starting a new habit, or taking an important step in my career, I convinced myself that waiting for just the right moment was the smart choice. But the truth is, I only ended up delaying my progress, stuck in a perpetual loop of waiting for conditions that never materialized. This habit of waiting for the right moment can be paralyzing. When you're convinced that everything has to be ideal before you begin, you may find that you never start at all. The perfect time to act, to change, or to grow doesn't exist. Life is always uncertain, and waiting for things to align perfectly means you risk missing out on opportunities that could be right in front of you. What matters is taking action now, with what you have, rather than waiting for the perfect moment. Progress comes from doing, not from waiting for everything to be just right. Even small steps forward can set you on a path to big changes. When you start moving, the next steps will reveal themselves. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes to begin. A great example of this comes from the story of Sylvester Stallone. Stallone was struggling in his early years and had no success in the film industry. He was homeless and broke, but he had a dream of becoming an actor. At one point, he wrote the screenplay for Rocky, but when he tried to sell it, studios were only interested in buying it if he would agree to let someone else star in it. Stallone, however, believed in his vision and refused, even though he had no money and no experience. Instead of waiting for the perfect opportunity to land the role he dreamed of, he took the risk and pushed forward with what he had, his script and determination. Eventually, Rocky was made, and Stallone's career took off, proving that success doesn't come from waiting for the perfect moment, but from taking bold action when the opportunity arises. Stallone's story shows that waiting for the right moment is often just a way to avoid taking action. Sometimes the conditions are never going to be perfect, and you have to make the moment right by moving forward despite uncertainty. It's the courage to act in imperfect circumstances that often leads to the most unexpected successes. By letting go of the need for perfection and embracing the process of action, you can begin to see new paths open up before you. The sooner you start, the sooner you'll be in motion, making progress, and discovering the opportunities that are available right now. Habit number 6, comparing yourself to others. The habit of comparing yourself to others is a common yet destructive behavior. It occurs when you constantly measure your worth, achievements, and progress against those around you. Whether it's your career, physical appearance, relationships, or lifestyle, there is always someone else to compare yourself to. Social media, society's expectations, and even the people in your circle can amplify this tendency. The more you look to others for validation, the more you lose sight of your own unique journey. The truth is, comparing yourself to someone else is like trying to race in a competition that you weren't even meant to be part of. Everyone's path is different, and by focusing on others, you only stunt your own growth. When you engage in comparison, it's easy to feel like you're falling short. You see someone who appears to be achieving more, or living a more successful or fulfilling life, and begin to think you're behind. This constant comparison takes a toll on your self-esteem and robs you of the joy in your own progress. It fosters feelings of inadequacy, jealousy, and sometimes even resentment toward those who seem to be doing better. But what's often forgotten in this cycle is that you're only seeing the surface of someone's life, not the whole picture. No one's journey is without struggle or challenges, even if they're not visible from the outside. Instead of comparing, a healthier approach is to focus on your own progress. Measure your growth against where you were yesterday, not where someone else is today. This shift in perspective allows you to appreciate your own achievements and challenges, fostering a mindset of gratitude and self-improvement. When you stop comparing, you can start to appreciate your own unique path, celebrating the small victories that lead you toward your long-term goals. Take, for example, Albert Einstein. Despite being one of the most brilliant minds in history, Einstein faced numerous failures and was often dismissed by his peers. He was considered slow to speak and had trouble in his early education, often being compared unfavorably to others. Yet instead of focusing on these comparisons, Einstein focused on his own curiosity and passion for learning. He pursued knowledge and worked on solving problems at his own pace, leading to discoveries that changed the world. Had he been caught up in comparing himself to others, he may have abandoned his pursuit of science altogether. Einstein's story reminds us that true success comes not from outpacing others, but from forging your own path and focusing on your individual growth. By refusing to compare himself to others, he was able to carve out a unique place in history. Comparing yourself to others only distracts you from your true potential. When you stop measuring your worth against the success of others, you free yourself from unnecessary stress and negativity. It's much more empowering to acknowledge where you've come from and focus on where you're going. The only person you need to compete with is your former self. Every step forward is a victory in its own right. Habit number 7, avoiding discomfort. Avoiding discomfort is a common habit that often disguises itself as self-preservation. It shows up when we delay difficult decisions, shy away from unfamiliar situations, or silence ourselves to avoid conflict. On the surface, it feels safe, like protection from pain or failure. But in reality, this habit creates invisible walls around our lives. We trade growth for comfort, opportunity for familiarity, and long-term success for short-term relief. The more we avoid discomfort, the more we limit ourselves from learning, evolving, and truly living. For a long time, I was caught in this cycle. I avoided public speaking because the thought of being judged terrified me. I passed on leadership roles even when I was qualified, just to stay behind the scenes. I convinced myself that I was being humble or practical, but deep down, I was just afraid of being uncomfortable. Eventually, I realized that by constantly retreating from challenge, I was also retreating from my own potential. I was missing out, not because I wasn't capable, but because I wasn't willing to feel the discomfort that growth demands. A powerful example of breaking this pattern comes from David Goggins, a former Navy SEAL and ultra-endurance athlete. He grew up in poverty, struggled with racism, learning disabilities, and an abusive household. For years, he avoided discomfort through food, television, and excuses. But at his lowest point, weighing nearly 300 pounds and working as a pest exterminator, he decided to face his pain head-on. He trained relentlessly, endured unimaginable hardship, and transformed himself into one of the world's toughest endurance athletes. His story is not about perfection, but about embracing discomfort to reclaim power over his life. Avoiding discomfort also distances us from meaningful relationships. When we avoid speaking our truth, admitting our mistakes, or setting boundaries, we sacrifice authenticity for false harmony. In my own relationships, I used to keep things on the surface to avoid awkward or tense conversations. But those unspoken truths built walls. Real connection comes from honesty, and honesty often requires stepping into discomfort. The more I practiced leaning into those difficult moments, the deeper and more genuine my relationships became. To break this habit, start by welcoming small discomforts into your life. Say what you really mean, try something new, confront your fear one step at a time. Discomfort is not your enemy. It is the compass pointing toward growth. Each time you face it, you prove to yourself that you're stronger than the fear that holds you back. With time, what once felt unbearable becomes a stepping stone to strength, resilience, and freedom. The habit of avoiding discomfort can also limit creative potential. Great ideas are often born from uncertainty and struggle, not from comfort zones. Whether you're writing a book, building a business, or pursuing a new path, discomfort will be part of the process. Embracing it means giving yourself permission to experiment, to fail, and to try again. That's where true creativity and innovation are born. Not in safety, but in courage. Ultimately, discomfort is a teacher. It shows us where we need to grow, where we're still holding back, and where we've built barriers out of fear. By choosing to face discomfort instead of fleeing from it, we reclaim power over our lives. It's not always easy, but the freedom, clarity, and strength that lie on the other side are always worth it. You don't need a total breakdown to start rebuilding. You don't need to wait until everything falls apart to decide it's time to change. The truth is, the fastest way to ruin your life is to keep living like you have all the time in the world, ignoring your thoughts, numbing your emotions, chasing approval, and avoiding discomfort. The Stoics weren't perfect. They were people like you and me, flawed, uncertain, facing hardships. But they chose to live with intention. They understood that real power comes not from controlling everything around us, but from mastering ourselves, from choosing courage over comfort, wisdom over ego, discipline over impulse. If something in this video hit a little too close to home, good, that means you're awake. That means you still have time. So pause, reflect, and then take one honest step forward, no matter how small. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being better than the person you were yesterday, because your life isn't ruined unless you choose to leave it that way. Thanks for watching. Stay grounded, stay disciplined, and as always, choose the harder right over the easier wrong.